What's up guys, welcome to MOV Plus. Our workout today is going to have 4 sections to it. So we're going to start things off with the warm-up, just getting the body prepped for all the hard stuff. We then have the build workout, which is going to be a combo of some pike shoulder taps and some split squats. From there, the move workout actually has 2 parts in itself. So there's going to be a 10-minute AMRAP followed by a 3-minute burpee finisher. We then have the actual finisher to the whole workout, which is going to be a little bit of midline work. It's going to be a 4-minute EMOM at the end there. Now, once that's all said and done, we will do a little bit of cool down mobility work just to kind of flush the body out. But as for now, we'll have a look at that warm-up, guys. We're going to start things off with 1 minute of cardio of your choice. So you can pick what you want to do there. We're going to go for skipping. So that is going to look like this. So just normal run-of-the-mill, single unders is fine, double unders if you want to, but single unders is cool. From there, we're going to move into 4 minutes, where we're going to do as many rounds as we can fit in of 10 goblet squats. So getting ourselves set up in that kind of front rack position there, nice deep squats. From there, we're going to go into 30 seconds on a plank hold. So that can be either hands or forearms, either one of them is fine as long as the body is nice and straight. You will then go into 30 seconds of another cardio of your choice. So you can go again with the skipping, or you can go jumping jacks like we're going to go with. I'm going to mix it up a little bit, and then those 3 things will just cycle for those remaining 4 minutes. So good to go, Maddie? Yeah. So we'll get this thing underway, guys. 1 minute of cardio of your choice. We're starting in 3, 2, 1, and go for it. So as I mentioned before, guys, you can either single or double under. So that's going to be very dependent on your skill level. If you're someone who's been training for years and years and double unders are sort of fairly easy, fairly run of the mill, obviously you can jump straight into that. If you're someone who's still developing your skipping ability, or you need a little bit more time for those calves and those Achilles to warm up, go for the single under and just take it nice and easy. You can easily combine the two as well. Start singles and then move to doubles if you want to. Main thing about this first minute is that it's just nice and cruisy. It's just ramping the body up to the intensity as we go. You don't want to feel like you're firing straight out of the gates. So you can see there, Maddie's switched to a double under, which is a 2 pass with the rope. Ten seconds. All right, we'll get ready for this next piece. 3, 2, 1. So going into 10 goblet squats. So important with this one, guys, again, we're warming up. We're taking time to get the body prepped, so feel free to go a little slower through here. Spend some time sinking those hips into that depth. Really ideally want to see the hips go below the height of the knee. Now, if you are new to training, maybe you're building up that mobility, you're just trying to work your way in there, feel free to squat to a chair or an edge of a couch or something like that, something as a marker, and then over time you can develop that. So 30-second plank hold is next. So Maddie's got his eyes on the clock there. He knows he's going to go from the 130 through to the 2. And just trying to create as much length in the body as possible. So feet are nice and close, knees are locked out, hips are flat along with the rest of the body. Nice active shoulders too, so even if he starts to get a little bit tired, he's not going to sink and collapse into those shoulders. He's going to press the ground away and stay nice and tall there. As soon as he gets to that 2-minute marker, we're going to pop up into jumping jacks. So this is your second cardio of choice. You can do the same cardio you did in that first minute, or you can do like we're doing and mix up something different in there. Jumping jacks, nice and simple. We're just going feet in and out, hands up to overhead and down to the thighs. So in about 10 seconds, we're going to push back onto those goblet squats again. 5 seconds. 3, 2, 1. So back in again. Okay. So another thing you want to kind of pay attention to, you guys, is getting the posture nice and tall. This goblet position is going to show up again later in the workout, so you want to make sure that we're getting that upper back, that thoracic section there. So think basically like rib cage and upwards, that nice and tall, and keeping that dumbbell really close. We don't want to be rounded off or having that dumbbell away from the body. We want to get it right in as sort of as close to our center of gravity as possible. All right, so moving back into plank hold. So we'll maybe go from 10 past there. And go for it. Always a good idea to use the clock for those 30-second holds or those 30-second stretches of cardio, guys. Sometimes if you count it in your head, the body can get a little clever and start to count a little quicker to get it over and done with. Using the clock keeps you nice and honest and makes sure we get a decent hold or a decent stint on that movement. So 10 more seconds. And straight up into jumping jacks. So as we're about to roll into the last minute of the warm-up, guys, you can feel free, if you want to crank the intensity up a little bit. I always find it works well to kind of rev the engine a little bit before we get into the hard stuff so the body feels like it's definitely ready to go. Okay, 10 more seconds. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. So back on the goblet squats one last time. This should just about take us through to that 5-minute marker. So notice the knee position, guys. Wherever Matty's toes point, his knees points as well. We want that in that nice kind of just slightly V'd out shape. And that's going to match up nicely with his hip joints. They're going to allow them to kind of externally turn out. And that'll allow him that really nice depth into the bottom there. All right. So we'll plank until the finish now. So last 20 seconds. Always be checking in that those hips are nice and level. If you feel yourself kind of pushing up at the butt, sort of jackknifing at the hips, make sure you drop them down. And same goes if you feel like you're sagging, try and lift up, reset yourself into a better position. 3, 2, 1, and done. All right, that's the warm-up done, guys. Have a little bit of a chill. We're gonna check out build next. Alrighty guys, we're gonna have a look at the build workout now. So the structure of this one is we've got 5 2-minute blocks. And what we're gonna do in each of those 2-minute blocks is the following. So 16 pike shoulder taps. So what Matty's gonna do is he's gonna start in a push-up position. Then he's gonna push his butt up as high to the roof as he can. So you can kind of walk those feet in a little bit. And then from there, we are tapping the shoulders. So going to opposite side there, and notice he's doing that really slow, really controlled, and he's really working hard to keep the body still, okay? So that's gonna be our first one, 16 reps of that. We then go into a goblet split squat. So we're gonna take our feet into like a lunge position, and we're gonna keep them there until we've done 6 reps, just lightly touching that knee to the ground, okay? And then we would switch sides, do 6 on the other side as well. Okay, and you're gonna do that every 2 minutes for 10 minutes. So ideally, if we can get the work done in say 60 to 90 seconds, that allows us a little bit of rest between rounds, so you can get some recovery time in. Good to go? All right, starting in 10. 3, 2, 1, and go for it. So with this position, guys, this can be a little tricky for some people if you are really, really tight in those hamstrings. You got a little work on that mobility a little bit, that sort of thing. What you can do is, like Matty's done here, he's split the feet out a little wider. That just gives you a little bit more range there. But ultimately what we want to see is something that is approaching almost like a handstand position. So really trying to get that torso as sort of as vertical as possible. And then from there, hands are about shoulder width, stance is a little bit wider than that, and he's just going hand to opposite shoulder for 16 reps. And the main goal of this is to try to keep your body as still as possible. What you'll find if you rush through this, or if you're a little bit kind of slack through that midsection, you will wobble back and forth quite a bit. So we're trying to take our time and really allow, like as soon as you take that hand off, try and keep that weight of your body nice and centered. So goblet split squat now, guys. We're gonna glue the feet in place, okay? Dumbbells up in that front rack position there. And nice and controlled, just lightly touching the knee to ground. You'll do all 6 on one side, then all 6 on the other. So this is kind of the defining feature that differentiates it from a lunge. A lunge, you would obviously alternate legs each time. And this one, we're gonna stay in place and just move up and down. So again, like we did in that warm-up, we had them with the squat. It's in the same rack position. We're keeping the body tall, keeping the dumbbell close. Nice. All right, so Matty's right on time there. We'll have a little break before we hit the next round. All right, here we go. 3, 2, 1, and go for it. you find this position extremely difficult to get into, guys, if the hamstrings just say no, or you find that maybe having this amount of your body weight up over your hands just feels like too much loading, you can obviously do it from a push-up position. It's the same deal of just going shoulder to shoulder with the hands, and it's the same thing of trying to keep it centered, really fighting hard to stop that sway. So some movements we do to really pump the heart rate up, and it's a quick cycle rate, and it's very sort of fast through the reps. This one is better done slow. Think of it like it's not a race. You want to try and get as much out of each rep as you can. Nice, Maddie. All right, so we're going to go to those split squats again. Now, if we look at the length of the stance that Maddie's got there, it's quite long, and that allows him to have nice sort of joint angles as he hits the bottom there. So the hardest part of the movement, everything's pretty much squared up to about 90 degrees. So what we're not seeing is his front knee's not really like ditching over the toe and going way too far forward. It's stacked over the ankle. And his back leg is, like if you look at the thigh part of it, it's stacked nicely under his hip. So you could draw a line from his head, through his body, through his hips, down to his knee, rather than having that knee kind of dragging behind or trailing out the back of us. You want it stacked in a nice tall line. Nice, so good consistent time there. That's 2 cycles down, we've got 3 to go. Three, 2, 1, and go for it. So with the hand that's on the ground, guys, so the one that's supporting your body weight, you want it to be nice and active, right? We don't want to feel like we're kind of slumping or bending that arm. You want to feel like you're kind of reaching into it, like we're creating extra height through the body. So I quite like to get like up on my toes, push the ground away, sort of pitch that body up as high as possible, and that way you'll get really good tension throughout the whole system. If you are bent and slack and switched off, you'll just find that everything feels kind of loose and floppy. And we want to make sure we've got that good full body tension. It's going to add to that strength. All right. So we talked about the stance length and angles of the joints, guys. We want to also think about the weighting of the feet. Now the back one's very straightforward. That's just all ball of the foot, nothing else. This front foot, although the whole foot is flat, you want to feel a lot of weight in the midfoot and the heel, right? If you feel like all the weight is right up in the toes there, the heel's kind of bobbling or just kind of bouncing on the ground like it feels really light, you want to make sure you draw that weight back a little bit. Sometimes that can be a giveaway that you are leaning forward too far or that you've got the stance too close. You want to feel like that the part of your foot that's sort of just forward of your ankle bone is driving straight down. That way we're not going to overload the knee. We're going to get some really good recruitment of the muscles in the rear of the leg there as well. Okay, 3, 2, 1, and go for it. So Matt's obviously got nice flexible hamstrings. He's got the knees pretty much at a full lockout there. You can put a little bit of bend if you need to. So Matt, if you go a little wider with your stance and then just soften your knees just a little bit. So that position there is perfectly fine. That's just making a little bit of an adjustment for flexibility. Obviously he doesn't need to do that, but that's what you can do if your hamstrings feel real tight. Getting the position of this movement is kind of the hard part to begin with. And then obviously once we've got that, it's the whole idea of like shifting weight or trying to keep the weight centered, and shifting the arms back and forth. So very deliberate movements is giving the body time to get that balance down. Also a good thing that Matty's doing here is he's keeping everything kind of squared up as far as like his knee is tracking with his toe and his back knee is tracking with the back toe as well. So it's kind of like he's got invisible train tracks that each foot has its own track and the knees are lining up with those lines too. Sometimes we'll see people collapse that knee or like have the foot slightly toed out and that knee will kind of run inside it. We don't want to have that happen because that's kind of twisting that hinge joint of the knee. We want it to just run straight. All right, so we've got one more round to go. Three, two, one, and go for it. So this is a really good drill just for general sort of arm and shoulder strength and stability, core stability. It's also a really good one if you're someone who's looking at trying to build up to something like a handstand walk. Obviously that's a little bit more of an advanced skill, but it is an awesome one. It's a really fun one to learn. This is a good place to start. You're going to learn how to kind of keep the body in the middle and control as the hands go back and forth. If you find the split squat getting a little bit out of hand technique wise, you can obviously put the dumbbell off to the side and just do it body weight. So that'd just be hands across the chest, moving through that. Or if you have the options for different weights, obviously you can scale that up and down. If you find it a little bit easy and you're just with the one weight, obviously you can add more tempo to it. So Matty's doing sort of like a 1 or 2 second up and down. Okay, you can take it to like a 3 second down or even pause just hovering sort of just above the ground, that sort of thing. You can add as much challenge as you want. Nice. So all the same techniques, he's just slowed the whole thing down. More time under tension makes those legs going to work, means they're going to work a lot harder. Okay, so there's 20 seconds left on the clock there, guys. If you're still going, that's fine. We'll run this clock out, and then we're going to move on to the move workout next. 10 seconds. 3, 2, 1, and done. Alrighty, guys, that's the build workout done. Take some recovery time, get some water in, and then we're going to have a look at the move workout next. All right, guys, so we're going to have a look at the move workout now. As I mentioned in the brief, this has 2 parts to it. So there's going to be a 10-minute AMRAP. There'll be a 1-minute break, and then there's a 3-minute AMRAP at the end there. So in the first section, what you guys are going to cycle through is 7 up downs, which are going to look like this. Okay, so it's basically down or push up and back up again. We then go into 7 push-ups. So that's staying down there, moving through that pressing motion. Okay, we then go into 7 front squats. So with whatever weighted object you have at home there, in nice and close, knees out wide. Okay, moving through those. So those 7, 7, and 7, keep cycling that for 10 minutes. You have your 1-minute break at the end, and then we go into 3 minutes to do as many burpees as we can. So this is kind of combining that up, down, and that push-up. So coming down, chest flat to ground, and we're gonna do a little jump and clap at the top there. And that's just a max sprint at the end for 3 minutes just to get in as much volume as you possibly can. You good to go, Matty? Yep. Yeah. All right, starting in 10. So 7 up downs is our first movement. We're going to do this first part for 10 minutes. And go for it. All right, so guys, you want to set the dial, that internal intensity dial in your body to 10 minutes, guys. It's obviously not super short, it's not super long, it's kind of in the middle there. So you want to lean on the gas, but always feel like you've got another gear to go to, especially with the fact that we have a finisher piece straight after this, after that minute's break. You don't want to get to the end of this 10 minutes feeling like you're completely leveled, but you should feel like you're pretty damn out of breath. So you can see Matty's just taking a couple of breaths between movements, and that should be generally kind of the goal of this, at least to start with, is unbroken on each of the 7s, but just taking a couple of seconds in between them just to allow that heart rate just to settle a little bit. You will find that the push-ups here will be the one thing that probably goes out the window the quickest. front squats and the up downs are generally pretty okay to stay unbroken, depending on what weight you go with. Nice. All right. So that was sort of just over a minute round there, guys. So you can kind of use the clock to kind of figure out what sort of time split you want to try and stay on. When we're doing the up downs here, we're going from a standing position to a push-up position. And really important that we have a straight body at either end of that. So we don't want to be kind of slouched or lean over at the top where we're kind of shortcutting that finish. We also want to make sure at the bottom that we're not sinking or elevating the hips. We want straight neutral through the body, okay? So make the body as long as you can. Feel free to use a marker of some sort if you need to give yourself a target to aim the feet for. When we go into the push-ups, Maddie's obviously doing the full version here, but you can go from knees, you can do elevated, whichever ones you want. So that's the scaled version there. But as far as like from the waist up, it's all the same. It is abs braced, hands in nice and narrow, elbows in nice and narrow, and we're going chest to ground, pushing up to a lockout. When we look at this front squat movement, the stance is going to push out to like a shoulder width or slightly wider stance, and those knees are going to kind of replicate where the feet are. They're going to try and sit pretty much straight over the top of them. Body's going to stay tall, even though there'll be a slight little hinge. There always is with the squat, okay? Or generally, most of the time there is, but we just want to make sure we don't excessively lean over. If you feel like the dumbbell is moving further than your hips are, you want to make sure you're straightening that body up. Okay, so that was a fairly consistent round time there, which is good. Maddie's found kind of a pace that he can settle into and hang on to for 10 minutes. I always like to think of using kind of the run example just because it's a really simple thing. If you were running for 10 minutes, what speed would you instinctively go out at? And that kind of gives you an idea as far as like feeling of discomfort and heart rate and breathing wise. If you start this workout and your heart rate and your fatigue level feels like you've sprinted 100 meters, and you're completely out of breath, you've obviously gone out too hot. If it feels really, really easy, like you're going for a big 10, 15K walk where the intensity is a lot lower, obviously you need to crank things up. So it's a bit of a balancing act, but trying to listen to the breathing, having a sense of the heart rate is really important. Now if we look at this front rack position that Maddie has, the elbows are kind of pushed out in front. So he's not tempted to kind of have them snug back and lose that dumbbell to the front there. He's trying to get the dumbbell to kind of push back in towards his collarbones. Doing good, Maddie. Maddie's footwork here is quite interesting to see that at the back, he's going to squeeze the feet tight together to get that really nice tight gymnastics position. He's adopting a real wide stance at the top though, which is going to just make it an easier position to get to, especially if you've got tight hamstrings. Allows him to prop his hips up really high. If you go really narrow and you don't have flexible hamstrings, you're going to have to end up kind of tucking into a ball. It becomes a bit of an awkward, sort of inefficient position to operate in. So play around with that stance see what feels best for you. I really like that Maddie is sort of leading with his chest and his rib cage. He's not allowing the thighs or his hips or his stomach to kind of sag down and having them contact the ground too much. The weight bearing or the contact part of the body should be up at the pecs there. Now, as you're squatting, guys, if you're sort of unfamiliar with sort of your body awareness, you're not sure whether you're getting down to depth or not, use some sort of marker, right? Use a chair, stack up some cushions, whatever it needs to be, but make sure you're getting those hips below the height of the knee. And if you don't have the mobility to get there, guys, just do the best you can, and over time, just gently encourage you to go that little bit further. Prioritize that over going excessively fast or going excessively heavy. And really make sure we've got nice healthy hips and knees and ankles. Best thing to do is try and get that really nice range of motion opened up. So we are into the second half of this now, so on the downhill run. Maddie's looking good. I mentioned before, the push-ups is generally the first thing to go. It's a smaller muscle group, so it is going to have a higher level of fatigue kick in a little bit earlier. This is where you might break that 7 up into like a 4 and 3 or whatever you need to do. Maybe it eventually becomes a 3-2-2 if you really need to. Can also just regress the movement along the way. If you get to the point where you can't hit an unbroken 7 and you want to try and hold that, drop down to the knees or go to an elevated position. So you're putting the hands up on the edge of your couch or kitchen counter. That'll allow you to keep those 7s rolling. Nice, Maddie. I like that Maddie is kind of bouncing in and out of this. He's not stopping at the back there. He's actually just using the nice little sort of elastic properties of his muscles to kind of just hit it and rebound back out. Same way the feet would kind of jump during a skip or a double under or a box jump or something like that. He's not pausing there, chewing up energy. He's just going to recoil back in again. And that way we get the movement over and done with pretty quickly. You want to try and aim for your chest to hit the ground sort of towards the fingertip end of your hands. So if you feel like your hands are like way out in front, they're quite wide, they maybe like turn in a little bit in a bad position there, wind it all in nice and close and imagine like a line across the top of your fingertips. You're trying to put your pec line to that so you'll feel like you're kind of loading forwards. Yeah, it's probably a little hard to see from that angle, guys, but Maddie's feet, he's working well with keeping a nice flat foot position, right? So it's not to say that he's collapsing his arches or anything, but he's keeping his heels on the ground. He's also keeping the outside ridge of his foot flat on the floor. He's not collapsing in or anything like that. Okay, about to roll in the last 2 minutes. Doing a good job, Maddie. His form looks exactly the same all the way through here. It's a nice refined movement he's got. He's well practiced with it, which is what we want to see. We don't want to see things sort of declining over time and the form falling apart. You want to have that movement integrity all the way through, no matter how tired you get. Nice work, Maddie. So still holding on to those nice long sets, which is good. Okay, so with that nice side view now, you can see that the heels, he's kind of digging them into the ground. Oftentimes, especially if you have tight calves, tight ankles, especially for the girls, if you're wearing heels at work, that sort of stuff, your heel cords get tight, get really ropey. At the bottom of that squat, when we get tired, you're going to want to kind of peel forward and pitch up onto the toes. Take the time to get those heels down, get those ankles moving nicely. Okay, we've got about 50 seconds left, Maddie, so just get as far as we can, then we have that 1 minute break. Still hitting a nice straight position at bottom and top, guys. Not losing that, not letting it fly out the window just because the heart rate is up. Hand position is going to be very, very similar to that push-up, so it's just outside of shoulder width. Fairly close in, he's not going super wide though. Last 20 seconds. Okay. 10 seconds. And resting. All right, so 1 minute break here. I would suggest having a bit of a move around, get some water, try and flush out the legs, flush out the shoulders. And we have 3 minutes to do as many burpees as we can. So really trying to settle that heart rate. Obviously we did the up downs, we did the push-ups, so very similar movement patterns there. Squats are going to get those legs fatigued. So a lot of things that are going to be kind of doubling up on this burpee here. So it's going to be a challenge, but that's part of the fun. We're going to see what the body's capable of. I like the idea with this of trying to pick a number per minute, like a target number that you're going to go for, and trying to stick to that. Generally, we can get the highest amount of volume out if it's just a consistent effort across rather than spiking at the start and then crashing and burning at the end. All right, ready, Maddie? We're going in 3, 2, 1, and go for it. So 3 minutes on this, guys. We now go into that full burpee movement. So as I said, it's a little bit of a combination of the up, down, and the push up, in that we're gonna come down to the push up position and actually go through the press now. Now the difference through the bottom there, guys, it doesn't have to be that really strict, rigid press motion that he did before. He has the ability to kind of drop the knees just slightly early, drop the hips a little early, and kind of roll down and roll up. That will take some of the weight out of the arms and out of the shoulders. Doing a similar kind of motion with the footwork here, so fairly narrow at the back, splitting wide at the top, and because we have that added thing of the jump at the top, that little extra challenge there, he's jumping the feet in during that movement, so nice and efficient as he goes through. That's 1 minute down, Maddie, doing good. So you don't have to jump high, guys, you just want to just get off the ground, just enough to get those feet back in and have time for that overhead hand contact. So you can either be above or behind the head as long as those hands come together. So Maddie's got a degree of kind of activity through his core. Even though we're kind of doing that roll down motion, we don't want to completely go loose. We don't want to thud into the ground. It's just kind of being a little bit more energy efficient on the arms to sort of roll the body down. If you're finding that coming back out of that you feel some sort of discomfort in your low back, again, just brace up a little bit more, get a little more tension through there, a little more tension through your butt as well, and that will kind of support that midsection. We're in the last minute now, Maddie. So we can see the pace has stayed fairly consistent all the way through, which is good. Technique staying the same, getting that same nice chest contact to the floor. This is one of those kind of mental tests where you've just got to have that voice in your head saying it's only 3 minutes, you can rest as long as you need to after. Just got to push through that discomfort no matter how bad it feels. So we're in the last 30 seconds now, Maddie. Ten seconds. 3, 2, 1, and time. All right, nicely done. Well done, Maddie. So, guys, that was the move workout done. Have some recovery time. We're going to have a look at our finisher next. All right, guys, we're gonna have a look at the finisher now. So this one is 4 minutes long. It is an EMOM. So what's gonna happen every minute on the minute, we're gonna start off with 30 Russian twists. So that's gonna look like this. We get into a V-sit position, going side to side with a dumbbell, or you can do it just with your bare hands, that's fine. You don't have to have a weight. And then from there, we go into max tuck hold. So basically that same position we were just in, okay? And just holding there for the remainder time of each of those minutes. So if the Russian twists take us 30 seconds, you've got 30 seconds left to tuck hold along the way. Good to go? All right, starting in 10. And we're gonna do this for 4 minutes. 3, 2, 1, and go for it. So with this movement, guys, we're gonna keep the feet pinned together. Knees nice and close. We'll try not to cross the ankles over because that generally means one leg is getting to switch off and the other one's doing all the work. So you want to keep it nice and balanced. And he's going back and forth. Notice the nice controlled touch on the ground. He's not bouncing it and going full throttle through it. Basically like about a rep per second. And really important to note that his head and his shoulders and his entire rib cage there, that whole upper body is rotating with the dumbbell. He's not just moving his arms without the rest of him. Good. Okay, so we're going to tuck hold, Got about 10 seconds left. This is going to be a spicy one, Maddie. Fire up those abs. Okay, 3, 2, 1, and back in. So this is one of those things, guys, where it will get pretty hot. So if you do need to take little breathers along the way, just try to keep it minimal. Do your best to at least get the Russian twists out each minute. If you find that that takes you right up to the end and you don't get that tuck hold, that's okay. Just do the best you can. Try to get in as much tuck hold as possible. You'll notice with this, he's balancing kind of on the top of his butt. He's not on his back like we would do for like a dead bug or a hollow or that sort of thing. We're actually up in that V sit position. Nice. Okay, so getting into that tuck position. Good, so holding strong there. 10 more seconds. Three, 2, 1, and go for it. All right, so we've got 2 more rounds of this. So we're trying to hang on to get all these Russian twists out. Again, you can see the legs staying nice and stable. You can, if you really struggle with the balance aspect of this, guys, just lightly put your heels on the ground, but still maintain that lean back. That can be another way you scale this movement. Remember, it's more important that we can get the 30 unbroken and that we keep the form how we want it. That's more important than having a really, really heavy dumbbell. If you've got something so heavy, like a big like 20 kilo plate or something, and it's taking you 5 seconds per rep to lug it across, that's going to be too much. You should be able to just keep it nice and consistent across the board there. Doing a good job, buddy. Hang in there. And notice with this, Matt, he's not hanging onto his legs with the arms. That can be a real temptation to grab on. Help yourself through it. 3, 2, 1, and one more time, Matty. You got this. Nice, Matty, doing good. Let's get a strong finish. Good. All right, get into the tuck hold finish. So we've got about just over 20 seconds to go. You got this, Matty. This is the last round. I'm going to finish on this one. So keeping the shoulders up off the ground is really important, guys. We don't want to have that low back kind of arch out and dump the shoulders back. You want to think ribs down into the belly. 3, 2, 1, and done. All right, nicely done. So that is the finisher done, guys. Grab some water, and then we're going to go through a little bit of cool down mobility to finish. Alrighty, guys, so we're going to cool things down now with a little bit of mobility. The first drill we're going to do is a seated twist. So with this one, I'm going to go 45 seconds on each side. We're going to cross one leg over, take the opposite arm around. We're basically anchoring in and then turning from there. So chuck that timer on. So really important, guys, we're using both arms to anchor in and rotate as much as we can. So Matty's sort of turning his chest, turning his head to kind of look behind him. So you want to have this feeling of kind of hugging that leg into the body as much as possible. It also really helps if you posture up. Sometimes with this one, you can kind of slouch as you rotate around, and it just kind of dumps the stretch a little bit. We want to posture up and get it to really sit down into the glute as much as possible. We'll go about 10 more seconds on this one. All right, and switching sides. Now, as Matty's done, you want to try and get that leg that's crossed over to hitch up quite high, as if you're trying to get your heel right up to the mid-thigh or even the pocket there. If you're doing this stretch and you're like, something feels weird, I'm not feeling a stretch, I feel like I'm in the wrong spot, it generally means you've got your wrong, like the wrong arm. You've gone same side as the leg, like that. You want to make sure you cross over. So I always like to think like I'm trying to grab my opposite pocket and then turning from there. Ten more seconds. 3, 2, 1. All right, so next drill we're gonna go to, we're gonna lay on our fronts. So kind of like we're setting up for a plank hold, but we're just gonna relax the lower body down, press the head up towards the roof as much as we can. So this is gonna be a really nice one. After that finish we did was a lot of abs. There's a lot of kind of tension through the hips as well. So it's just gonna get that whole front line of the body to loosen up a little bit. You can, from that position as well, do a little bit of like right and left. So just kind of dropping one shoulder forward, back and forth. We'll do this for 1 minute. This is just going to get those abs nice and open up again. So I like to do nice big like belly breathing with this, trying to expand the abdomen, expand the rib cage, breathe into the stretch. Three, 2, 1, and done. All right, so guys, those are your 2 drills. We'll get you to do those 3 or 4 times or whatever you have time to do. Otherwise, we'll catch you next time, and that's been your Move Plus workout.